Hi, everyone, and welcome to Doc Thoughts. So, I have a very special guest here today, and I'm super excited about this one. It's Scott Diedrich, and we have a short history of knowing each other. Basically, as you know, I've been all jacked up about cold exposure. I can't stop talking about it. I think I'm annoying everyone. And he reached out to me through social media because he plunges locally in bodies of water around Wisconsin and invited us to plunge with him. And of course, I sent my husband the first time because it was just a little out of my comfort zone. I'm used to going in my, controlled environment or right in front of my house. But then we ultimately were able to plunge a couple of times together in a group and have, experienced that together, which has been awesome. Yeah. And the other cool fact is I went to high school with his wife, which I found out after the fact. So I was able to reconnect with someone who I haven't seen in a very long time, which is very cool. So welcome, Scott. And I'll kind of, just ask you a bunch of questions, but we're probably going to go in tangents. But, basically tell me a little bit about how you do cold plunging and cold exposure and how long you've been doing it and kind of what your routine is right now.
Sure. So like my typical actions when it comes to cold plunging and cold water therapy is I started about a year ago, and I started because a friend was doing it already and posted it up, and I said, "You're crazy."
Right.
And he said, "You should join me." And it just so happens to be the year I said I was going to say yes to more experiences. So with that, of course, by him saying it, I mean, we're talking days after I made that resolution.
Oh.
And he says this. So I'm like, yeah, let's go. So I did it 4 times last year, and I really enjoyed it, the fact that I could do it. And then when this year started getting cold, I decided I wanted to continue it. And I started walking into the water, and I really planned on doing it similar to what Susanna Soberg preaches, which is the 11 minutes a week.
She's a PhD from Scandinavia,
yes,
right?
Yep.
Who's a huge researcher in cold therapy.
Yeah.
Amazing research.
Yeah, the thermalist effect
Yeah.
and the Soberg principle. So I really only wanted to do it 11 minutes a week. But when I started, I'm like, I love the lake effect. I love being outside. I love doing it in the lake. I love having birds flying over. When the water freezes, I love getting into the ice. It's just a really great experience that I feel adds to the cold therapy.
Absolutely.
So really, by doing that, I put a cold plunge in my garage that I could use as supplement. But I've been doing it so much in the lakes that I haven't had to supplement.
Do you ever use it at all?
I have not used it yet.
It's so funny. Yeah. And so do you go every day now?
No, I go probably 3 to 5 times a week.
Okay. And you travel for work. So you've told me where you're traveling, you usually find a spot to cold plunge.
Correct. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And that's mostly in Wisconsin?
Mostly in Wisconsin.
Okay.
I have last week I did it in Nashville.
Okay.
Which the water was a little bit warmer.
Right.
But I still did it there.
Where was the craziest place that you did an outdoor cold plunge?
The craziest place?
Or the weirdest place?
I think the craziest place is probably, in my mind, at your house, because it's in the Fox River.
Right.
So that's probably the craziest place.
Right.
I mean, some people would say this morning when I was cutting holes in the ice in Lake Pewaukee at the end of a boat launch, where I'm surrounded by houses and I got my chainsaw out.
Right.
That might feel like the craziest place because it's kind of out in the open, but also not necessarily a swimming area that people would think of.
Was it a public access area though? Okay.
Yes.
And you had someone with you. You
Yes.
brought someone. So do you typically go with someone? Or is it kind of half and half?
I would say it's probably 75% with people.
Okay.
Just because others want to do it so much that I'm willing to be their gateway to get involved.
Right.
So I love seeing other people get it.
And I've seen a lot of people, especially when I post things out, when I do it in natural areas, they make comments about how it's dangerous, you're going to drown. Mm-hmm. So what do you say about that?
I don't know if there's really a lot of risk to drowning in the way that I do it.
Right.
So if you're doing it for the first time and you want to do it like in a new spot, I would highly recommend bringing somebody else with you
Yes,
first.
for sure.
But when you cut the hole, if there is ice,
Right.
If there is no ice, just walk out as far as you feel comfortable
Right.
going and not able to drown, because
Right.
you're going to be on the ground, you're going to be standing in it, you'll be crouching or sitting.
Right.
So there isn't going to be a lot of risk. But if you're cutting into the ice, I bring a stick, which the Wisconsin DNR actually suggested. Well, I mean, it's a requirement to stake off holes that you've cut so that people can't fall in them anyways.
Right.
So I bring sticks and I just stick them into the ice to make sure it's the depth that I want to get into and I can get out of. So I don't really feel the risk is there. A lot of people, I think, that have a risk of drowning, they're going for winter swimming and they get into deep water and they start swimming right away because it feels like you got to get your temperature up. It's kind of foreign to you. And then they splash it in their face and they kind of hyperventilate and they suck water in.
Right.
Where with plunging, the way you and I do it, really at this point, you're getting in and sitting and then you calm down and then you might move around a little bit.
Yeah, so, I agree with that. Yeah. Like every time we've done it, it's like up to my waist.
Correct,
and then you just crouch down into it. So it's never a place where you're going to like slip under the ice and be trying to get out of the ice. Because I would never do that, obviously.
No. My mother, of course, feels like it is very dangerous. And she would not recommend it for me one bit. I love you, Mom.
Yeah, right. So question I had, how much have you thought about this in terms of human resiliency? Because I have some thoughts about that.
That is actually one of the main reasons why I do it.
It is because, I always just think about how comfortable we are and how everything's climate controlled. My steering wheel is heated. My seats are heated.
Yes, yeah.
Like, unless I deliberately make myself uncomfortable, I'm pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was great. Everyone wants to feel comfortable, but I didn't always realize how it was actually damaging my body and my mind, I would say. Mm-hmm. You agree with that?
I completely agree with that.
Have you noticed a difference in yourself?
So a lot of people would say I'm a calm person regardless.
Right.
High energy, but calm when it comes to things going awry. But it becomes very easy when you do this to realize that something that's happening to you, right? I mean, it's as simple as getting the wrong order at a restaurant that might trip you off, right? Or somebody pulling out in front of you while you're in the car.
Yes.
And it's just so easy to think now, like, it's okay. It makes it like my calmness is taken, levels down to make it even better. And
I would not have been described as calm as you probably.
Yeah.
I'm both high energy and probably not calm.
Yeah.
So for me, I literally noticed driving, I wouldn't get road rage as much because I've lived in bigger cities and now I live in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So people piss me off a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of other instances. Just if I'm in the office and my clinic director comes back to tell me something, a patient complaint or something that went wrong, that's inevitable in any type of practice, obviously.
Yeah.
Typically I would just, my adrenaline would surge and it would just be like this. And now I just kind of go, okay, let's just take care of it. And it's just so much better. I have noticed it immensely.
Yeah. It's very easy to now put yourself into a state of breathing.
Yes.
Like when something like hits you, right? Like when you dip into the water and it takes your breath away.
Right.
It's easy to put myself into that situation where whatever it is, it feels like it's just cold water washing over you, and you breathe a little bit and it calms you down. Like once you've done it for a while, you realize how quickly you can calm yourself down, even when you feel like stuff is going really bad.
Yeah, that's I notice now when I get in our plunge tank here at the office that I am slow breathing right away. Yeah. And I remember back to the first time I did it, when you're hyperventilating and you're panicking a little bit and you're going, you're kind of like gripping the sides. Like, what am I doing?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
And it's like a whole different set of flooding through me.
Yeah.
And then it's like calming versus alarming now.
Yeah.
And
So-
you talked about you've plunged with a lot of people for their
Yep.
first time.
Yep.
Tell me about that experience, because you said you see the switch in them.
Yeah, so I've plunged with, at this point, probably close to 60 people.
Yeah.
Their first
Their
time.
first time, which is amazing.
It is. And it is really an amazing experience every single time. And sometimes they've been in larger groups, sometimes, intimately, like just two people.
Right.
And you find that no matter what, right? One, well, first of all, by doing that, and my buddy Dave will express this, because his first time, I don't think I prepared him well enough for it. I was just like, we're going to go in and you'll be fine. Right. And where now, you take people through it, but the first 30 seconds of everyone's first experience it's so foreign to your body, and it feels so wrong because, well, first of all, you've been told that you shouldn't get into really cold water because you're going to go hypothermic right away.
Sick, right.
Yep.
Dangerous.
You're going to get frostbite, all these things.
Right.
But then if you can get past that 30 seconds, that's typically where people will, it almost like a wall of breaking, that you get that calm, right? You say you get calm really right away.
Right away now. Mm-hmm.
It always takes my breath away for a little bit, but I find...
I probably have that too, but by the time I think about it, I feel like it's...
Yes, it goes away so quickly.
Right.
But when you have people that for the first time, you can hear it in their voice. Well, one, they don't want to talk to you. They're done with you. Like, they're like, what did you make me do?
Headlights, yes.
How dare you get me into this?
Right.
And so they're freaking out. But then they hit that wall of that 30 seconds, and you can actually hear it in their voice that they caught their breath. They're now at a point, and they're cool. They're like, wow,
you mentioned the softening of their face.
Yeah.
Like, you just see their face just kind of soften, right?
They're like, not... I think the first 30 seconds is not shivers. It's like
panic.
Right. Yeah. And they just like, and then they smile.
Right.
Versus like,
yeah,
it goes to like, oh yeah, very, very nice. Yeah. It's such a great experience to do that or go through that with another person. But like, even the people that, will say, I didn't coach well, getting into it, my bad. Their second time is one of complete understanding that they aren't going to die. They're going to be okay. Their body will come back. Their cold hands will be fine, right? And they move on. They are able to last for several minutes, the second time.
Right.
When you prep somebody for it the first time, a lot of them can go for several minutes, even their first time.
Right.
So,
yeah. I would agree. I've only seen probably 4 or 5 people the first time, but I completely agree.
Yeah.
And then it's let's talk about the science behind it a little bit. I don't know how much have you studied the science of it.
I mean, a little bit. I am not an expert.
No,
I have no idea. I watch and read the same exact things that everyone else does, which makes it feel like there's something I have to do. So but I dabble. So
because I think that's what fascinated me the most, is because there's all these biohacks and supplements, and you go on social media and people are trying to sell you all of these things that are going to totally make you the most amazing human being. Yeah. But for this one, I did a pretty deep dive on the research behind cold exposure, and it all just makes sense, and it's all been proven. And then I personally experienced it. So for me, it's a no-brainer. Like, yes, I need to offer this to other people. Yeah. Yes, I need to tell other people about this, but it's really kind of like a yin and yang type thing, where you have activation of your sympathetic nervous system, and then also in parallel activation of your parasympathetic nervous system, which it's your fight or flight versus your rest and digest. So it's your activated versus calm parts. Yeah. Yep. And you don't ever want to spend too much time in either one, because if you're always in rest and digest, you're kind of a sloth. If you're always in fight or flight, you're just that high adrenaline, stressed out junkie. So you get a surge of the adrenaline and the noradrenaline, and you get at first a surge of cortisol, but then dopamine, serotonin, endorphins. And if these things don't make sense to you, that's okay. But basically, you're getting a surge of some really good happy hormones, reward hormones. And people don't think cortisol is a great thing. Like, you don't necessarily want to have too much cortisol, because it's a problem for some people is that they're just really high cortisol all the time. But what follows is, especially if you're doing it regularly, is you adapt to it. And so you don't get as big of a surge of cortisol, and your cortisol rhythm is better.
Yeah. I think the key to the cortisol is that you can get out. So that stressor, right? So that, the stress hormone, right, of cortisol,
Right.
What it ends up being is because you can get out at any time, it doesn't spike through the roof. Like if you fall in the ice,
Yeah.
that's going to be spiking. Like I'm going to die. How am I going to get out? You start flailing, right? All that stuff.
Yes.
Where the cold plunge, the intentional discomfort of cold water therapy is I'm getting in. I am intentionally going to get in. I am going to intentionally, deliberately sit in this for a period of time. So I know I am choosing to do this. So you are in control of that.
Right.
So you get all the good hormones versus too much of that cortisol with it as well. So, and really, when you're in a lake or you're in a plunge, for somebody that's trying to do it for the first time, I think doing it in a tub is probably a much more wise way of doing it, right? It Even, if you're in Wisconsin, your water is really cold coming out of the faucet. Right. And you can fill up your bathtub and get in it. And it is going to feel really uncomfortable. Right. But at least you can get out of the tub and be warm right away. Where if you don't feel comfortable going into the lake right away, or somewhere where you might have to go in and warm up in a car, that gives you the ability to control that a little bit as well. So,
I think there's about 5 to 7 like specific health benefits that I see come through in every area that I research.
Yeah, okay.
I listed them here. Yeah. You can kind of see. And you can put your 2 cents in on these. So mood, obviously, that's a no-brainer.
Yes, totally.
I mean, personally experienced it. Yes. I think that's why most people will do it again.
Yep.
Because they have this feeling of euphoria and elation for several hours after the plunge.
Yep, definitely.
And then I think with practice, that actually just becomes enhanced and lasts longer and becomes more part of your norm. Would you agree with that?
It's impossible to get out of there and not have a smile.
It is, yeah.
Really.
I would say actually on Sunday when we went with you, we had some really bad news and some really bad stuff happening. And we had just left from something that was very sad, and I was funky. Oh, really? Funky. And I didn't plunge with you guys because we were taking videos of you, obviously. But then when I went home and went into the river, it's not that I forgot the sadness, but that heavy feeling had just completely gone away. Yeah. And I felt a lot better.
Yeah. At one point, it's kind of a distraction, right? Mm-hmm. Like you do have the distraction of like, I'm going through something hard, right? But then you actually get your body uplifting itself so you can feel better from the inside. Right. So whatever it is, right, you definitely feel better.
Yes.
No matter what it is.
How do you feel about cold and workouts? Because I probably do the mistake of I always do it after I lift. Yeah. Which I know is not the best time to do it, but that's the time that works for me. So I think they say if it's the only time you can do it, you should still do it. Yep. But I've heard you guys talking about doing it before a workout.
Yep. Yeah.
And you've noticed a nice benefit from that?
I typically I get the shivers pretty strong after I plunge. So I've never done it directly after, but I will work out, we'll say an hour to an hour and a half after.
Okay.
And I feel great.
Great. Okay.
Your body's warmed up because your body is warming up naturally from within.
Right.
So you're able to come in and you can, be more pliable, quicker, right? That kind of thing. It's kind of an oxymoron. It feels like you should be stiff after it, but because your blood after is surging
warming everything.
Yes, everything is warming up. You really are kind of loose. So, but a lot of people still, I think, are in that mode of plunge, like they think they should go work out and then plunge,
right?
Because it feels better.
It does.
You feel like I warmed up and now I kind of actually want to get into the cold water because I'm sweating, I'm hot, right? But that does, from what they say is it stops your blood from flowing, which stops you from recovering from that strength or hypertrophy workout.
Right.
If you're doing endurance, supposedly it's really good to do it after.
That makes sense.
So it just depends on which way you're going, what kind of workout it is.
I would say the one thing I've noticed though that is nice is I don't get as sore. If I do a really, really heavy workout and I'm like, I'm going to be sore. Yeah. 2 days later, I was like, wow, I didn't even get sore from that.
Yeah.
So that's the one benefit I would say.
Yeah. I do after, I work out most every day, and then I'm going to plunge. It's usually the next day that I plunge. They say 4 hours you should leave at
Right,
least.
right.
But most of mine have been plunging the next day and then a workout after that.
Right.
So I feel the same thing. And I'll even say, like, if we're talking about like soreness and such. So I broke my ankle about 5 years ago,
Mhm.
and my ankle has been absolutely never okay. So I disintegrated it. I had a bimallear fracture, right? It was completely
And hardware in there or
disintegrated.
no?
I got a lot of hardware in
Okay,
there. Yep.
yeah.
Like 12 screws and a plate,
Ugh.
and the screws, 2 of the big screws are broken within there. So it's just not good.
No.
So I've gone to the doctor. The doctor says, take Advil. You know, they basically say you're going to need a new ankle.
Oh,
Did rehab,
right.
physical therapy, which helps a bit, but the pain just has never gone away. It
Right.
helps the strength and the, like, I'm going to fall down because it hurts.
Right.
But since I started plunging, like, I don't even think about my ankle anymore.
That's incredible.
It really is. Like, I didn't
That is
even realize
incredible.
it until I was packing to go to Nashville, and I didn't pack my Hokas, which I know that sounds weird, right? They're just shoes.
Right.
But to me, running through an airport, my Hokas are my life.
Right.
Like, they keep me going. And
Right.
I didn't even think to bring them.
That's incredible.
Because I did not think about my ankle at all, which is absolutely crazy.
Well, and that's one of the things, I mean, that's for sure, is they show a reduction in pain, through both endorphins, decrease in inflammation.
Yeah.
It's like, even the cortisol, I would think affects, because cortisol would affect your perception of pain. If you have a more balanced circadian rhythm and balanced cortisol, you're not going to perceive the pain to be as severe, because you all know what it's like when you're super wound up or super stressed out. Things hurt more.
Yes.
Because you're just more reactive. So if you're less reactive, it's just going to decrease your pain response.
Yeah.
So that's super powerful. What about, have you noticed a change in body composition? You probably aren't like doing analyze. I mean, we have like a body composition analyzer here.
I do a bit. Yeah.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
so have you seen
I'm
a
fairly
change in
vain
that?
a little bit on
No,
that
but
stuff.
I mean,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
you know, there's potential improvement in testosterone. There's brown fat, obviously.
Yep.
So I would think potentially may increase your muscle mass if you're pairing it with weight training.
Yep.
Fat reduction, because you're becoming more metabolically active. So that brown fat I talked about obviously is burning more calories.
Yep.
Have you seen that personally or
so
experienced that?
I'm pretty structured with my eating.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, you know, that I've noticed is my appetite is more.
Oh, it is?
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, and with the same amount of activity, the same amount of everything, going to the gym, working out, right? I do many different activities,
right.
But my appetite, I would say for me, I'm usually the person that doesn't get hungry often,
mm-hmm.
but I find myself now getting hungry quite often.
So are you eating more calories?
So I eat more calories. Yeah.
Are you gaining weight when you're eating more calories? So
my metabolism is,
your metabolism is up.
It's going
right.
And the thing, like, because I would say, like, because I personally want to gain muscle, I
right.
want to gain weight a little bit right now. That's my goal, but this is almost hindering my ability to do that.
To gain weight,
right? But it's okay because it's giving me, I would trade anything to not have to worry about my ankle, right? I mean, that's the world. So yeah, I definitely feel like and really my metabolism seems to just be firing rapidly
all the time.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now, actually, I didn't even think about that, but I've definitely been hungrier than I have been in the past. But even though I give into that hunger, it doesn't seem to be causing the scale numbers to go up.
Completely.
In fact, even a little bit the opposite.
Yeah.
So now that makes sense to me.
And if you find yourself going, like, so there was a stint there where I was going like every day.
Uh-huh.
And that time I was eating a lot, like I was hungry. Where this week I went on Sunday, but then I haven't gone until today. So that's like a full, almost a week.
Right.
So like the last couple of days, I haven't felt hungry.
Interesting.
It's where I can forget to eat.
Right.
And so I will find, right. So now that this weekend will be one of consuming.
Oh, consuming. Yeah, and probably plunging Saturday and Sunday.
Yes, because I'll probably,
for sure.
Yep, because I plunged this morning. I'll probably plunge tomorrow.
Right.
I'll probably plunge on Sunday. So my appetite is going to be firing hard.
And then I haven't found this because I don't think I'm doing it quite right, because I do jump in the sauna after because
Oh, yeah.
I like to be comfortable.
Yes, yeah.
So you're the first person who told me, and I'd heard this before, but I think I just didn't want to hear it because
Yeah.
I really like to get in the sauna after I plunge again. But you found yourself being able to tolerate cold better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so like the Solberg principle is one of you should wait and let your body warm up naturally.
Right. You can
So
drink hot tea though.
you can consume things. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anything. It's just getting in a sauna and warming up, right? Going and laying in a sauna blanket, right? That you should, if you're going to do any like warm to cold, you should end in the cold.
Right.
And let your body warm up naturally. And I like one of the things with the brown fat activation, right, is within it, right? The reason why we don't have a lot of brown fat is because we have such great jackets. We have heat.
We're so comfortable.
Right? We're so comfortable, right? We don't have, I mean, you don't have to worry about being
on the
cold.
gluttonous side of comfortable.
Completely.
Yes.
Yeah. So by doing this and letting your body warm up naturally, you are giving your body the ability to adapt because it is capable of doing this. You know, our bodies have not changed in the 300 years that, you know, central heating has been, you know, capable in fire pit, right?
Right.
So it gives you the ability to create that brown fat to be able to regulate your temperature better and get, you know, we'll just say walk outside and get the mail and not have to be as prepared as we once were. Right.
The brown fat, by the way, that we're talking about, I've mentioned this in other videos, but it's basically this fat that when you're a newborn, you have a lot of it because newborns can't self-regulate. They can't go get a blanket. And so they're born with all this brown fat, and brown fat is very rich in mitochondria, which are huge energy producers. So it's like they have a little thermostat or heater in their bodies.
Yeah.
And then as we age, we lose brown fat, and most of us accumulate the white fat, which is the kind of fat. So you're probably thinking, why would you want more fat? But this brown fat is literally just like a little energy burning, calorie burning heater that cold plunging has absolutely been proven to increase that in your body, and much more so if you're allowing yourself to come to room temperature or come to your normal temperature without going in the sauna like I do.
And you can gain that even by just walking outside in a t-shirt in winter in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So you can gain that through other ways. This just takes it to the extreme.
And then a couple other things, and we don't have to go into big talks about this, but mental focus and clarity, I would say. I'm sure at work, do you find that you're able to knock out tasks a little bit faster? Creativity.
I'm fairly creative, and I don't know if I've experienced more creativity.
Okay.
But it definitely is for the focus that I think that helps with creativity.
Right. So I would say there's that. I would say sleep can definitely be better. And that's just, you know, we talked about adrenaline, noradrenaline. We talked about, cortisol, and you know, you balance those things, and that's what affects your sleep. So what you do during the day and the way your hormones and neurotransmitters are working during the day are what determines how you sleep at night, and there's a definite positive benefit. So it's not like cold directly makes you sleep better, but it's all the downstream effects that happen that help with your sleep. And then let's talk about the different ways to do it, because I don't think a lot of people are going to go to a big body of water and just do the natural one right away. I still want to talk about that. And I even want to talk about cold water swimming, but what do you think about the cold shower?
I do the cold shower every day.
You do it every day too?
Every day, yeah.
So I feel like that's just such a nice starting point.
It's awful.
I think it's so worse than a cold plunge.
It's so bad. I
don't do it.
By having outside of the shower right next to me, and knowing I'm just a flick of the wrist away from not being uncomfortable, it's hard. You have to mentally be strong to say, I'm going to stay in this stream of cold water. And of course, as it gets to like during summer, it's not so bad. During winter, the water does get colder and it feels so bad. And then because you want to get the full effect, you have to turn, and get your back and get your front and then put your head in it. So it's like a constant, like, I need to get there. It feels like you were saying earlier about catching your breath right away in the tub. This, you turn, you lose your breath. You turn, you lose your breath. You turn, so you have to catch it often. So I just feel like it's so... it's so much worse than getting into the water.
I feel so too. So people who have tried to take a cold shower who are like, oh, I would never do a plunge because I hate the cold shower experience. It is completely different.
It is.
So then Next option obviously would be filling your bathtub. I never even thought of that, but if you're in a place where the water is cold enough, not Arizona obviously in the summer, but if you're in Wisconsin in the winter, that's probably a really nice. What is the temperature you think? 50s?
It's a low 50s.
Oh, that's perfect.
So when I filled my tub the first time, it was in November, and the water was 53 degrees.
Oh, that's perfect.
Right out of the spigot.
Right. And then obviously if you get a plunge, which is usually just either a barrel or a bathtub shaped, some people use old freezers. Obviously you have to be careful that you're not going to get shut into it and it's not plugged in. So that's something I don't talk about a lot. And what do you think the ideal temperature is?
Well,
I know there's a scientific ideal temperature. And I honestly don't even remember what it is.
It's between 45 and 55
okay,
is where
so it's not
they
that
say.
bad.
It's pretty cold.
It is, but I feel like some people are trying to be hardcore and do the 30, high 30s, and you really don't need to do that. You can do 50. A lot of times our plunge here, we have it at 45, but by the time if we go with a group of 3 of us, by the time the third person's in there, it's in the low 50s. Yeah. But it's nice to know that that's equally beneficial.
Yeah, and I think for there's different reasons why people are doing it, right? You have I want the mental grit. Right.
I want to be the tough person.
I want to be the tough person. And there's I want the health benefits of it. Right. And then there's people that are just competitive.
Yes.
It's not even a grit thing. Right. It's like people talking like, I'm going to be in there. Like Joe, I'm going to go for 15 minutes. Right. Well, I mean, what's 15 minutes going to do for you? Right. And once you get past the 6 minute mark. John did
21 minutes this morning.
He's crazy. He's a beast.
I know.
That guy's a beast.
Competitive.
Well, and that's exactly it. But for me, I find that once I get past that 6 minute mark, if I really want to pursue more, no longer is that giving me the mental grit that I actually probably need.
Right.
I've proven that I can go past those walls.
Right.
I can push my body harder in those things.
Yeah.
Maybe what I need to do is go and organize the shelf that's driving me crazy. If there's a chance
that's a good
something else is making me uncomfortable, then I need to get uncomfortable and take some time to go to. Right.
That is
so. I don't want to go down that path of I need to continue down this path, because you hear of people sitting in there for hours, and I
what's it
don't
doing?
You have other things that you could focus on that might improve your life a little bit? I get it. This is great. It's good for your body, but once you get past the point, you're no longer proving anything to anyone, because you already know you can do that.
Right.
And so we did a plunge with the vegan bicycler. And it was mind-boggling.
Is that his name, the vegan bicycler?
Yeah, the vegan cycler, I think.
Oh, really?
It actually is. But so he's a beast,
right? Absolute
beast. So he's doing 36-hour races and such. And talking to him, so Dave and I were talking to him, and he's like, in order for me to break down a wall of what I'm capable of, I have to get on my bike and go for 30 hours. You guys are doing that in 5 minutes.
Right.
So that's for him. He knows he can break down these walls, but it just takes days for him to get to that point.
Yep.
Where for him to break down a wall that may be a new way, this gave him the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to do this. And I mean, he crushed it, but he had to face a lot of fears to do that, but he got it done in a few minutes.
Right.
So,
that's incredible.
Yeah.
And then next step. I want to talk about timing a little bit. Yep. So I go with the same 12 minutes a week principle.
Yep. But we should probably finish the different things that we do.
Yeah.
Right.
Good.
So
next one,
we got the bath, right? You have the plunge, right? You can add ice,
right?
Or you can get a chiller, so you don't have to keep on adding ice to it. And then of course you get into the world of natural, going to a lake, going to a river. Going to a lake in ice I know it looks the most hardcore, because you're stepping into the ice, but the water underneath is stable. It's not moving. It's just sitting there. Mm-hmm. So even though it's the coldest water you will experience, because it's not moving, it doesn't feel as cold. Mm-hmm. But you get into open water with waves, or a river that's moving, and it feels so much colder.
Yes.
But you can also do that by moving. If you don't feel or you only have a certain amount of time, you can put your hands in, you can put your feet in, right? You dunk your head a little bit. Mm-hmm. You now will have more heat loss, so you can actually increase your temperature drop in a quicker time by moving a little bit.
Right.
You know,
within your little cutout hole.
Yep.
Right.
Yes.
And I love the fact that you mentioned like the birds and the tree. I mean, the one thing I've noticed when I do cold plunging outdoors is if it's sunny.
Yes.
Man,
feels so warm.
I just like stick my face right at the sun.
Yes.
I can't even describe how it feels. And then all of a sudden you hear a couple birds.
Yep.
And then you look at a tree. And then, I mean, this Sunday when I was in the river, the church, all of a sudden the church bells went off and there were hawks flying over. And I was just like, this is, it was, you know, it was pure mindfulness.
Yeah.
You know, I tell my patients, oh, do breath work. Maybe you should meditate, pray, try to be mindful, be in the present moment. And this is a beautiful way that it just like sucks you into the present moment and you don't have to put as much effort into it. You don't have to think about it. It just happens.
Yeah. I mean, where we go in Swamico,
it's beautiful there.
We had a couple eagles flying over
it's beautiful
us one
there.
time. It's
gorgeous.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And then like this morning, I'm in Lake Pewaukee and I can turn around and look at all the houses along the edge. You know, they're just old houses looking cool with their patios out front. You know, like it's, you know, it's a nice experience.
It really is
to have that outdoor effect.
Okay, and then talk to me about the community part of it because I don't know if I'm an introvert or not, but I call myself an introvert. But I think it's just because I talk to people all day at work, and then by the time I get home, I'm like, don't talk. So I'm a little bit of a mute at home, and I tend to stay home on the weekends a little bit more often than not. But you know, you reached out to me, and I was like, okay, this sounds okay. Yes, we'll do this. But you're very community oriented, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
very much
don't you think that's one of the really beautiful benefits of
it's
cold plunging?
It's absolutely, I adore
Mm-hmm.
like the amount of people. Well, the amount of people that just are interested in about it. They like to talk about it, that think you're crazy. So they like, and it's, we're opening ourselves up to be made fun of per se, right? Like, yeah, a little bit insane. Right. But it gives other people confidence to say those things to you, right? Which it's fun,
it's
right?
Funny.
Because I get you. I am a little bit crazy.
For sure.
Feels like, right? From your standpoint. But then you get the people that do it. And the people that do cold plunging are usually the same people that do like CrossFit, that do Ninja Warrior training, that are, you know, rock climbers, that are into adventures, maybe high endurance athletes. Kiteboarder. Yes, exactly. And all of those communities are so supportive. And I actually put it in the terminology of most of the time when you have like high like sports type of activities, usually it's very competitive and almost like I am jealous of you. This isn't. It's I am inspired by you. And when you sit in the ice with somebody, you bond. You know, and it just feels, especially like their first time, right now, you've just gone through something with somebody.
Right. Very vulnerable.
They never thought they were going to do something like this. And it really creates a camaraderie that is just hard to shake off. And so many people that I've met throughout this that are just amazing people, kind spirits, or just looking for an outlet of sorts, but they just are so thankful for it to exist. Thankful for your, you know, ability and willingness to help them through it. And it is absolutely is a great community.
Well, and I would say everyone who's doing it is wanting to become a better person.
Yeah.
So whether they're super unhealthy, in terrible shape, eating McDonald's 3 meals a day, or they're that, you know, elite vegan cyclists.
Yes, totally.
They're all interested the same as making themselves a better person.
Yeah.
So compared to a lot of the activities we do, especially in Wisconsin, are surrounded where it's all about partying and drinking and maybe not that that's bad necessarily, but I think that it's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
It's a nice adjunct to the way we spend the rest of our time in Wisconsin.
And if you like, you think about all doing the bad things, right? Drinking, drugs, all that stuff.
Right.
Well, the dopamine effect you get from this, they say, is like doing cocaine.
Right.
So
do you really think that's true?
I don't know. I don't feel it.
Right.
I feel amazing.
Right.
but I've never done cocaine, so
Never.
I can't tell you
Same.
that I have
Right.
any. I can't compare it to
Can't either.
anything, but I will
Don't think
tell
I'm going
you,
to do
I
it.
feel amazing, and people smile when they're done,
Yes.
and you feel great throughout. You feel great, you know. Again, you go work out, you feel like you can push a mountain. So I don't know. I guess if that's what it is, this is a great way of getting that
Yeah.
effect. So,
And then, do you do breath work at all when you're cold plunging? Do you focus on
forcefully,
breath?
I do not do like Wim Hof or
You don't
anything
Wim
like
Hof
that.
it, okay.
You know, what I do is I breathe,
Right.
but I feel like it's almost impossible to not do it, which
I
I think
agree.
has given me the ability outside of the plunge to be able to breathe through
I
things
agree.
better
Yep.
without having to train for it.
Right.
So,
yeah. So I do a little bit of breath work, and I find in the plunge that I'll either do like the box breathing where you breathe in for 2, hold for 2, breathe out. I'll do that maybe for a few cycles.
Yeah.
But really it's more just focusing on breathing in and breathing out, deep exhales, actually using my lower belly to breathe versus most women just kind of suck it in all the time.
Okay.
So I found that I agree, the breathing just kind of comes naturally.
Yeah.
And also translates into other areas of my life.
Yeah.
So why would you say you're doing this other than you challenge yourself?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm
and if that's your only answer, that's fine.
No, I like, so,
or I can share my side of it first.
Well, I have, there's two things that come about it, right? One is I made a resolution that I was going to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was last year. I made a resolution I was going to say yes to things. And it's amazing once you commit to saying yes to things, how things just come out of the woodwork and people start telling you should do things.
Mm-hmm.
Last year was a great year for me to experience new things. Cold plunging is one of them. I went ballroom dancing.
Fun.
I did some trapeze work. I ate my first tomato. I grew a beard. It's not a good beard. If you know me, I'm kind of vain a little bit. So having a beard is something that I have to be conscious of, like, all the time.
Oh my
right?
gosh.
So it's just that level of, like, we'll call it intentional discomfort, right? Of doing those kinds of things. So there's that piece. But then, like last year, like another piece of it is, we'll say, push beyond, but something that keeps on bringing me back is, I struggle with friendship for a lot of things. And, I feel like I don't fit in with a lot of the people that I grew up with and such. And, early last year, it kind of hit me hard with just feeling alone and feeling like, even though there are probably thousands of people that call me friend, but I struggle to be vulnerable and actually commit to that. So when you feel like you're alone, right? And I'll even just say, I'm a guy, so guys don't really talk about their feelings that well, right? So you can go to the gym again, right? You can go and do that stuff, right? That's great. I do that. I do those things. I take care of myself. I commit to doing good things for myself. But this was something that it just kept on coming up with being good for me, but it also kind of just makes you feel like you can get through. And that's been a big piece of why I keep on, right? Anytime I feel alone, I know that I can go, like, it doesn't hurt as much, right? Because I know I've experienced real pain.
Right.
I felt the daggers of the water in me, and unexpected, literally this community of amazing people. I was going to say,
now you have this community
of supporting, like, people that don't look at you like what you can do for them. Truly, they're just really appreciative. I adore being a part of other people's journeys, right? It just turns into one of those things of my willingness to say yes to Jason Barber when he, said you should do this, turns into me saying, I want to give that to other people, So it becomes, in essence, I didn't expect it, but it truly did become a solution to something I was going through.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. I would say one of the main missions I have in life is to, like, collectively raise, this sounds very cheesy, but raise the vibration of people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people aren't healthy because they're blocking themselves or their energy's low, and they try all these things, this diet, this supplement, this drug, and which are fine. I prescribe these things all the time to my patients, but if they're not at the same time doing something that's going to like lift their energetic level up, it's not going to work as well. And then the beautiful thing is, which what you see is it's like a ripple effect. You know, it's like one person changes and then they have 10 people change around them. And then those 10 people change around them. So even if you think about the world and the universe and you're like, how am I going to make a difference? At the end of the day, you make a huge difference. So I see, you know,
I adore that.
So that's why I was like, oh, I got to talk to him and talk through this, because he definitely has a good story and you've got a great energy, and what you're doing is absolutely amazing. Amazing.
Well, it's the way you're like raising people's, you know, vibrations. So there's a book, and I'll give credit to Eric Conlon, you know, VP GM of US Cellular. So went to one of his meetings, and his meeting was all about the coffee bean. And there's a book about it. And so it goes down the point of it's the opposite, right? We talk about boiling water. When you put a carrot into boiling water, it gets soft, right? It takes on all the burden of the hot water. You know, in life, right? When things get rough, if you're a carrot, you'll feel hurt, you'll feel bad, right? All that stuff. If you put an egg in boiling water, it will get hard, right? And it pushes things away, it becomes mean, angry, right? But what happens when you put a coffee bean in boiling water?
It gets tasty.
It impacts the water, right? So that is in essence what you're being, right? You can be the person that when things get bad, you start pushing people away or become like downtrodden on yourself, or you can be the light, right? You can make this into like a morning treat that everyone wants to be a part of, right? And that's, you know, there's many coffee beans out there, right? And raising people's vibrations. This is one way, and there's so many other people doing things like that. But it's great to see other people win. It's just so wonderful to see people win.
So what do you think do you see anything on the horizon with this? Are you just going to keep growing the community?
Yeah, you know,
group cold plunges.
Yeah,
what are you going to do next?
You know, because people like, you know, you can monetize this. You know,
I become an influencer.
I love if whatever happens, because I don't have any intention. I love seeing people win. I love seeing people, you know, people's like joy in this is great. I find joy in I'm going to do it anyways. You know, I love what I do for work. You know, I love what I do for fun. You know, I don't need to do more with it, but I am willing to be a part of people's journeys. Right. So I see this continuing and becoming just a joy in my life to be able to, you know, continue on with my life of yes. You know, like, why would it have to be a year, right? You know, I can say I'm going to continue it again this year. Well, yeah, that's a commitment. And I do believe you need to reaffirm your resolutions if you like them. Even if you're like, you know, I'm not going to make any changes. You have to recommit to that, because recommitting to something that you find is valuable will help you continue on with that path, right? Where if you think I'm just going to make a lifestyle change and it's just going to continue because it's just going to continue, that's not how things work. You have to, like, you look at Olympians, right? We're in the year of Olympics, right? You're going to see all these people that every single time they showed up at practice, they had to commit to going in and say yes and do something that's hard. They don't focus on the things they're good at. They focus on the things they're bad at. And so I just see it continuing to give me the ability to, and it's good for my body. So I'm going to live forever, you know, unless I get hit by a bus, I guess, you know, but all of the things considered, I hope to be able to continue to just live a happy, functioning, good life with it.
Well, and how old are your kids?
16, 19, and 22.
Right. Yeah. So I the other thing I love about this, total tangent, but I love the effect it has on, not that your kids are necessarily plunging, but just that observation of their crazy dad. What I've seen is my kids they don't regularly plunge, but they'll all do it. And it's been the case with every other health thing or whatever I've done in the past 10, 15 years. They might make fun of me at first, and then they get inquisitive, and the next thing you know, they're actually just doing it with me. So I think there's that beautiful effect as well. And next time, Chrissy's going to go with us, right? This is the call to action for Chrissy.
That was your call to action.
I know.
So
Sorry.
You heard it first.
But anyway, is there anything else you want to add? Did I
No,
miss
I
anything?
appreciate it. I think that one of the effects, like I don't know if we kind of fully went through the effects of it, like the walls that you break down, the feeling. So just if you're gonna do this,
Yeah, no,
just
walk them through it.
keep in mind. So like your first, if you're like if you right, we're coming up to the point where it's getting to spring. People are going to go to their cabins to open them up, and they're on a lake, and they're like, that water's still pretty cold. In April, it's still going to be cold if you're in Wisconsin, right? So as you're walking in, just realize that first toe step is awful. It's not fun, right? I would highly encourage you to wear some alpaca socks or some wool socks, right, to keep your feet warm. If because that's nice. Your feet being cold and your hands being cold can really affect your experience.
Definitely.
But when you get in and you commit to sitting down, right, your breath is going to get taken away. It's going to feel very foreign. It's going to feel awful. You're going to feel like you want to get out. And really, as long as your heart is good, right, you should be fine. And then wait, breathe. After 30 seconds, you will feel yourself calm. Soften. You'll be able to breathe. You'll be able to talk again. And then it's fine for a while until like the pins and needles start sticking in. And that's just another wall. They'll go away. And then you move on. And
yeah, I would say a lot of people do the polar plunge. In the January 1st, there's big polar plunge groups. And that's a totally different experience because it's high adrenaline. You jump in, everyone screams, and then you get out right away. But this is jump in, have that high adrenaline, and then wait and breathe. And then that's when the magic actually happens. So first of all, thank you for coming here. He made a trip to the office. I messaged him. I'm like, can we put you on a podcast? We got some really good video footage of last weekend's group plunge. We had my kids there with the drone taking cool pictures. So we'll put those up somewhere. And if it's something that you're thinking about at all, I can't encourage it enough. It's just one of those things where, a lot of people think it's trendy because it's all over social media and there's all these plunges you can buy and people are capitalizing on it, but it is the real deal. And I think I can say that anecdotally. I can say that from scientific research. I can say it from my patient experiences, from people like you sharing their experiences. So it's a really powerful thing. So thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. And thank you for doing your part in this community for just like lifting people up and getting them to be better.
It's so fun. And if you're interested, we do have a Facebook group for Northeast Wisconsin.
Is that
ice
you
water
run that?
Immersion. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or cold water immersion. So it's Northeast Wisconsin cold water immersion.
He hasn't been doing Facebook for years, and now he's like addicted to Facebook again.
Yeah. It's just a small group. I mean, I should say it's like 70 people, that are just interested. But we post times, like bear with, right? I'm not a Facebook person, like event coordinator, that kind of thing. But people post times when they're going, they ask questions, that kind of thing. There are other ones that are bigger with very supportive communities.
Ones.
Like cold water curious, or ice water curious.
What is yours called again?
Northeast Wisconsin cold water immersion.
Okay, perfect.
So if you're interested, if you're local in the Northeast Wisconsin world,
absolutely,
more than welcome, join that, because it's fun to talk.
I'm signing up. I know John's in it, but now I will be too.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we are heading to the weekend, so have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your cold plunges. We'll be cold plunging in separate areas of the state all weekend.
Yes, we will.
But I'll post some shots on the group after I join it.
I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.